Hello and welcome to the Comic Book Network. I'm your host, Ian.
And I'm your co-host, Ethan.
And you're joining us for this week's 11th episode, where we're going to be discussing sidekicks and second-generation heroes. Are you ready for this one?
I must say that I am indeed ready.
So, Ethan, do you in fact have any thoughts on the matter at hand?
You know, I think if you pay them enough, they can do anything.
Anything?
Anything.
Can they bake me cookies?
They can.
Can they make handmade lavender soap?
They can.
And see, that's what we really want to know. We're going to dive in deep to this topic, get to the bottom of the questions that you've been asking, you've been wanting for years, if not days. You ready for this?
Who makes the best soap?
Olay.
Olay.
Irish Spring.
Irish Spring.
Are you repeating what I say?
Are you repeating what I say?
Perfect. And ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly what sidekicks do. They are repetitive, unnecessary pieces of garbage who are there only for spiting the hero.
Now there's where I disagree. Because,
Okay.
you know, sidekicks are necessary. Because, like in this show, you know, you could necessarily be a hero, although I could not see you doing it because of my glaucoma.
Okay.
That's why I smoke medical marijuanas.
Right. This is a family-friendly show.
Family
Kiddo.
friendly. That's why I said marijuanas.
Oh, because it's medical. Got it.
Medical.
Don't worry about this one.
I have glaucoma.
Uh-huh.
I have glaucoma. I don't have glaucoma.
What's glaucoma?
I don't smoke.
Okay.
Okay. Anyways, and I'm the sidekick, and you need me here to make these funny, witty jokes and to kind of have someone to bounce ideas off.
Yeah, and honestly, it's really not working that well.
I think that sidekicks are literary devices for the comic books and books in general, really, because you need them to kind of have the hero be able to relate to someone and explain stuff to them, and then you get a better understanding of the hero by how he interacts.
Right, of course. But also, it doesn't have to be done with sidekicks necessarily. They seem to be more of the juvenile, just getting to work on their power type of characters. And those sorts of characters are often juvenile and untrained and more of a burden to the hero than, I think, a benefit.
And I think that they are a benefit because, I mean, even in life, you know, you need kind of that sidekick, that person you can talk to, because, you know, no one wants to be lonely the entire time.
Of course not. That would be terrible. But for that, we have the love interests, and we have, you know, the partners, like perhaps Iron Fist and Luke Cage. They're not, neither one is a sidekick of the other, but they're still a good partnership. They still have a good sense of chemistry between them, and they don't really need that sort of extra burden on them.
And well, that helps, yes. I think it's also good to have someone, though, who looks up to you, you know?
Right.
You can be a hero to, if no one else but him, you're a hero to him or her.
Right, and that worked out so
Or
well
it.
in the story Irredeemable, where he sort of killed his sidekick just a little bit.
Just a little bit, but we won't penalize him for it.
Right. And I think, like I said, they can be a burden, but also playing as the other side's advocate a little bit. They do provide a good transition point if the main hero ever gets incapacitated or knocked out or anything like that. You always want to have that sort of backup squad to have. And if it's not a partner, at least you're training someone so that realistically these superheroes would eventually die, and having a newer generation would definitely help with that.
Right, and we see examples like that in real life, though not superheroes, but like people, you know. you have Bill Gates or someone rich, right?
Right.
When they die, they've had someone who they've kind of mentored
Right,
to
like
take
me.
over. Yeah, you're right. Bill Gates is actually mentoring him.
Right, actually, I am the new owner of Microsoft. I made billions just
Bill
in
Gates
this little
isn't dead.
speech. Uh, um, he will be.
Death threats.
Part of your family-friendly show every week here at the Comic Book Network. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Next up on my hit list is John McCain, because his name is the first name that came into my mind,
I
and it is
don't want to
also a
know why
great.
it's. Why is it the first
I
name
have
that comes
no
into your
clue,
mind?
but it was right there. It was just I reached for it, I caught it, and I think it really just fit, you
Yeah.
know? Um so in terms of powers, how should a sidekick be related to the hero that they kick for?
They got to be good, but like I've said before, I believe we've touched on side characters before and
Right.
whether or not they're necessary, like love interests and stuff, and they can't be as good. They can't be as good as the hero.
Right. Um but in some cases they are, and they're just a little bit untrained, and that can be a tricky subject because it'll eventually lead to the hero in question who has this sidekick finally admitting that the sidekicks become superior, like in the case of Spider-Man and Alpha, who turned out to be kind of a prick regardless, but his powers were far beyond that of Spider-Man. And I think that's kind of an interesting thing as well, an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. That is that's definitely right.
Right, but it's also a difficult thing to pull off because you have this hero who's suddenly been shifted into the background and no longer has that sense of heroism that he once had, and that can be kind of disappointing to both fans and to just general readers of the character because they see that sort of de-evolution. Because if you have this young side character, eventually they have to grow older, and what happens with that is that it takes these heroes who are mentoring these side characters and it forces them to grow up as well, and that can kind of taint their character in some ways and doesn't always reflect well on the comic as a whole.
Yeah, but usually with sidekicks, we're hoping that they grow up being mentored and then they become the mentoree to another. And we've touched on side characters before, so that's why I want to primarily focus on sidekicks.
Right. And like I'm saying, we're talking about sidekicks, not the partners who are equal in power to them or who have an equal stake in the sort of joint superhero partnership. We're seeing less and less sidekicks today than we have in the golden age or the silver age. And why do you think that is?
One of the main reasons that I really see with this is that you know, everyone's becoming teams, everyone's like, "Hey, let's cross over this into this so that we
Right.
can get more money from this and we combine these movies and do this." And so they've had less need for more characters because they're just taking the characters and putting them together and they don't have the side characters
Right.
anymore.
That could be it. And also, a lot of the sidekicks and side characters have you sort of develop a special relationship with them as a reader because they're sort of the intermediate between the sort of godlike hero and the more street level type people who are just trying to make a living. So through those sidekicks, there's a level of relatability, and that level of relatability is something that writers like to prey upon. When you have such a strong connection to this character, killing them off or injuring them in some way often leads to a emotional sort of storyline, and that could also result in sort of the disappearance of these characters.
Yes, I agree with you on that. And to kind of touch on that, but also expand on it more.
Right.
I'll get back to your point in
Yeah.
a second, but like some characters, some main heroes, they stand for something. They're a symbol. They're a beacon, and so they'll have sidekicks like Batman has Robin, and Robin. I mean, when he died, that was a huge storyline in his own. Yeah, but there's another Robin because that Robin figure is a symbol and a beacon. So yeah, sometimes they die, but usually they're more than that, and they have a legacy that's carried on even as a side character.
Right, but how many sidekicks can you think of that have that same sort of legacy as Robin does?
Let me count really quick. 1.
And who would that be?
Robin.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think when you do establish that sort of partnership, it's good, but it's also become more of a trademark of Batman than any other character. There are very few sidekicks nowadays, and it's even a little bit tough to think of another one. Maybe Superman's son, who we're gonna be seeing in the new Rebirth.
We got Bucky Barnes.
We got Bucky Barnes, yeah.
He's a sidekick.
But he's sort of become his own character as well. We have all of the Flash's sidekicks who have usually grown up. I don't know what capacity we'll see them in the future, but like Wally West and Bart Allen and that sort of dynamic, or Aquaman and Aqualad, they've all kind of disappeared.
And another one, I don't know if this counts, but all the Iron Man suits, they can come to life and help them out.
Well, I don't think they have the same sort of sidekick relationship.
At least War Machine does.
Armor. Yeah, War Machine has a good history, but he too has become sort of his own character, and that's just become what sidekicks are now. They've developed and they've progressed, and their rarity has increased exponentially.
Green Arrow's got sidekicks.
That's true.
That's another example.
So yeah, if we've got all that we've got to say about that one, let's move on to our
Reads of the Week.
I was going to say soaps of the week, but reads of the week works too. Today, I read Lavender, the soap by Irish Spring.
Thanks.
Was that good?
I'm not proud of you.
Are you pleased with me?
I am not.
Okay. That hurts to hear. I mean, that really just damaged my ego a little bit.
I suppose I'll go first then?
I suppose so.
So, this week I read some of the earlier Secret Avengers,
Okay.
There's like, 6 or 7 volumes with 32 issues in each, so I'm making my way through it slowly.
Right.
Slowly but surely, and it's really, really fun to read, It's a more tactical side of operations instead of just, hey, we're going to fly here and throw the Hulk and boom.
Right. And what team did your volume that you read, what did it feature?
It was featuring, I believe, Captain America, I know.
As Captain America?
As Captain America, I guess. I'm assuming.
Okay.
I mean, that's what he was referred to. There was Beast.
Okay.
There were there were two females. One's from Asgard. I'm blanking on her name.
Valkyrie, maybe?
Valkyrie. Yeah, yeah. And then I forget who the other one is. Sorry.
Would it be Quake?
I
know she was a member of the
I don't
Secret
know.
Avengers at some point.
I don't know.
Yeah, sounds good. So how do you like the art or the story or anything?
The first thing that really drew it to me is because I knew Taskmaster was in the Secret Avengers at one point. I haven't read
shocker.
about him yet, but so that was kind of why I picked it up. But the story's good, the art's good, and it's kind of kept me going, not just skipping around to find more comics that Taskmaster is in.
Right. So my reads of the week, I went on kind of a flash spree after the announcements of DC's Rebirth lineup. I will say that was a great lineup, and perhaps we'll touch on it in a later episode. But the Rebirth Flash, I decided to go back and read The Flash Rebirth.
Oh, wow.
Shocking, I know. But they're supposedly tying in very heavily, which doesn't make a lot of sense, seeing as the titles are so drastically different. But it was a great story and really a character-defining sort of arc, even though it was very short. But I really found out how cool Professor Zoom is and how interesting Iris is as a character. She really stood out to me in this book as sort of a strong, independent female, but not in the stereotypical, irritating sort of way, Yeah. It felt natural. It felt sort of inspiring in a way. I may become a strong, independent female.
That would
Maybe
be
I
a
could
change,
go from
Henrietta.
Lewis Lane to Lois at some point.
You might have to.
Another thing I read, which was a little bit more recent, was the start of the New 52 Animal Man. And I've got to say that's one of the creepiest, most disgusting books I've read in a while. And I've read Injection. So judge it based on that.
So
it was high level of creepy. The art was very definitive and very structured, but also sort of fluid in a way that made it grotesque. I'm just throwing out large words that I think make me sound educated and, do well to critique the book, but in reality, I have no idea what I'm doing right now.
Palindrome.
That's a good one. Indubitably. How do you like that one? It sort of rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, I like it.
But the art was strange, but it fit the tone. The dialogue could be funny at times and creepy at other times, which is a hard sort of thing to do. A hard sort of thing to switch off between. But overall, it was enjoyable. I haven't gotten much into it, but I hope to in this coming week. All right.
All I have to say on that is biomolecular thesis.
Wow. I don't know if you folks can see it at home, but my jaw just dropped straight through the floor into the center of Earth, and I think, yep, I know it just hit China.
It did hit China.
That is insanity. If you hear any sort of earthquake warnings and you live in, let's say, Hong Kong, then it's probably my jaw.
It could be his jaw.
Quite possibly. So if that's all, if there are no objections...
I have to object.
You have to, because I say every time that it'll be a hilarious line if you say that you object.
It is in the script.
It never is.
It is in the script.
Not here, though.
I'm not going to break script.
Scraped?
Script.
Perfect.
Script. I think someone made a typo.
Yeah, that line in there also did say to read it in a weird Midwestern sort of accent. So you nailed that one, bud.
It's actually pretty cool how they make fun of their typo
Right,
in the
exactly.
script.
It's ideal.
Speaking of ideal, let's move on.
Let's move on with that ideal transition. No, you were close. We are going to go to our question of the week. And yes, indeed, we do have a question of the week this time. Thank you. You gave me the perfect amount of time I needed to pull up the question of the week. And remember, you can send in your question of the week to thecomicbooknetwork@gmail.com. THECOMICBOOKNETWORK@gmail.com. Or you can go directly to our website, and you may silence that sound of clapping.
That was some good clapping.
That was some
quality clapping.
Very high quality clapping. But you can also go to our website, which is the Comic Book Network, spelled the same way, strangely enough, .weebly.com. All right, so our question of the week this week comes from...
I don't know. You're holding it.
You have to get... We're going to give him an anonymous name.
Oh, right. I'm going to say Cyanide and Happiness, 10-hour clapping sound.
All right, this question comes from Cyanide and Happiness, 10-hour clapping sound, of which we are listening right now.
Oh, actually, I have the earbuds in, but I'll take them out if you'd like to hear.
No, thank you. What are your thoughts on the Captain Britain Netflix series, as well as the upcoming comic book movies this year? So I'll give my quick thoughts on the Captain Britain Netflix series because honestly, both of us have very little experience with Captain Britain. I will say it's a great opportunity for me to start reading more about him than I already have. He's a great character from what I've heard, and I think it'll be an interesting opportunity to read about him. As well as an interesting opportunity to see what's done for Netflix and what the capabilities of Netflix are, because I know he has some cosmic ties. I know his animation budget may be a little bit higher than most Netflix series, and I'm interested in seeing what they do with that. We don't know many details about it yet, but yeah, it's exciting, won't you say?
I would say it's exciting.
Will you be tuning into it?
I don't know.
Perfect. All right, and let's talk.
Indecision.
Let's talk about some upcoming comic book movies. Let's start with X-Men: Age of Apocalypse. That one is both colorful and beautiful. Have you seen the trailers yet?
I believe I have actually seen the trailers.
Yeah, they've been exciting. They've revolved a little bit more around Mystique than I would have thought, but that could be exciting.
The Apocalypse guy who was back in ancient Egypt or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, perfect. That guy. He is also in the movie as the titular character. And yes, I did say that word right.
Congratulations.
That was very wrong, actually. I did well, so thank you for congratulating me, but you need work.
Am I fired?
Not quite, but you will have to seek other employment because I don't want you here anymore and I'm not paying you and you're not on the show. Comprende?
Cool.
All right. I'll say I'm very excited for it. I think putting Mystique as the leader was a sensible idea since most of the leaders are going to be, Apocalypse's four horsemen. And that's going to be an interesting interesting thing to see. I don't know how well they can transition Psylocke and Angel in, and how much of an impact that'll make, because it's sort of, I haven't seen all the Angel or all the X-Men movies, so I'm not sure if Angel's appeared before, but I know from the 3 or 4 I've watched, he hasn't appeared, and we haven't really gotten an emotional connection with him. And I know for a fact that Psylocke hasn't appeared yet, and we haven't really understood her character yet. So doing their best to discover these characters and then to transition them in as the Horsemen will be a difficult task. But I do think their relationship with each other is going to sort of help that, ease that along.
Yeah.
You know?
It'll be 2 for the price of 1.
Right, and let's talk about one more before we cut to black. The Suicide Squad. That's coming out soon, and it's sort of DC's fallback movie. As you know, we did enjoy Batman vs. Superman, but it wasn't the critical success that was expected to launch the DC universe. And remember, you can listen to our full review on last week's episode. But this is sort of their last-ditch effort, at least for this year, as far as I know. So,
yeah, I believe that it's going to be.
So, recent news I'll touch on real quick is they've gone back to reshoot some of the scenes to add more comedy, since apparently most of the comedy was in the trailer. And that might have been disappointing.
That's never a good thing.
Right, but the good thing is that they are fixing that, right? And that's positive.
Better.
I like right, and I like that sort of idea that they're listening to fans and they're trying to improve their movie even after they've already likely gone into heavy editing. So, what are your thoughts on the characters and lineup of that?
I'm excited to see it. You know, there's been people who were disappointed with the trailers, disappointed with the new Joker, but I think, you know, whatever they have for us, I think it'll be fun, a good watch, and.
What do you think about Harley Quinn as a character overall?
As a character overall, she's slightly annoying.
Right, and I think one of the greatest things they're doing is not using the squeaky little schoolgirl's voice for Harley Quinn this time. That
might be a bit creepy.
Right,
actually.
it gets either creepy or just plain annoying, and I think it was a good choice to take that out. The lineup is a pretty entertaining lineup, and Suicide Squad has almost consistently been a good group of banter, especially with Captain Boomerang there. There's a lot to laugh at. But I think the group is great. The fact that there's going to be 2 DC movies this year is awesome, and I have every confidence that it shall be good. So that's about all we have time for today. Why don't you go ahead and close us out with our resources and where you can find us.
So, remember, for every episode, and next week's episode, and every episode, find us on the Comic Book Network on YouTube.
Right.
Spreaker. Also, you can go to our website, thecomicbooknetwork.weebly.com.
Mm-hmm.
Email us at Gmail. Gmail.
Yeah.
With comments, questions, concerns. Leave improvement or stuff like that you want us to improve down in the comments. We both got iFunnies that you can find us on.
Right.
We're very accessible.
All right. So we'll see you guys later. If you want to buy some lavender soap, please let me know, because actually I'm fundraising right now to create a new podcast without you.
This is not true.
It's entirely
You
false.
could have not done this.
I'm sorry. It's too late. Sprint wanted me to, and broaden your horizons with Sprint.
We're running out of time, man.
We are? Could
No,
we
we are.
possibly reach the end?
We have 5, 6, or 3,
How
2.
much time do we have?